the small country town of Willow Creek had a population of just over 2,000 people. Everybody knew everybody. News traveled faster than the wind, and secrets rarely stayed secret for long. For 18-year-old Ethan Parker, that was exactly what scared him. He had spent years carrying a secret he wasn't sure the town would accept. Every morning, he walked past the bakery where Mrs. Wilson greeted everyone by name. He'd wave at the farmers gathering outside the cafe and nod to people he'd known his entire life. On the outside, everything looked normal. Inside, Ethan felt like he was living two different lives. One was the version everyone expected. The other was the real him. And he was tired of hiding. Ethan lived on a cattle property, just outside town with his parents and younger sister, Chloe. Life was simple. School, chores, football games on weekends, and helping around the farm. It was the kind of place where traditions mattered. The kind of place where people often expected everyone to fit into a certain mold. That made Ethan nervous. He'd known he was gay for years. At first, he hoped the feelings would disappear. Then he tried ignoring them. After that, he simply kept them hidden. But pretending became exhausting, especially when everyone constantly asked questions. Got your eye on any girls yet? Who's taking you to the school formal? You'll break a few hearts one day. Every comment felt like a reminder that he wasn't being honest. Not with them. Not with himself. The only person who knew was his best friend, Liam. They'd been friends since kindergarten. One afternoon, sitting on the back of Liam's ute overlooking rolling farmland, Ethan finally told him. He'd been terrified. His hands shook. His stomach twisted itself into knots. But Liam had simply listened. When Ethan finished talking, there was a long silence. Then Liam shrugged. Mate, you're still Ethan. That was it. No drama. No judgment. Just acceptance. It was one of the biggest moments of Ethan's life. Months passed after that conversation. Knowing someone accepted him helped, but it didn't solve everything. The thought of telling his family still terrified him. His parents were good people, hardworking, kind, supportive. But Ethan didn't know how they'd react. What if things changed? What if they looked at him differently? What if they were disappointed? The questions kept him awake at night. One evening, Ethan sat on the back veranda watching the sunset paint the sky orange and pink. His father joined him. They sat quietly for several minutes. The silence wasn't uncomfortable. It never was between them. Finally, his dad spoke. You've seemed distracted lately. Ethan stared at the paddocks, just thinking. His father nodded. About something important? Ethan felt his heart begin racing. Maybe this was the moment. Maybe it wasn't. But he couldn't keep carrying the secret forever. His dad looked over. You know you can talk to me about anything. The words hit harder than expected. For years, Ethan had imagined countless terrible outcomes. But sitting there, looking at the man who had always supported him, he suddenly felt brave. Not fearless. Just brave enough. Dad? Yeah? I need to tell you something. His voice shook. His father waited patiently. Ethan swallowed. Then the words finally came. I'm gay. The sentence seemed to hang in the air forever. Seconds felt like hours. His heart pounded so loudly he could barely hear anything else. Then his father smiled softly. That's what you've been worried about? Ethan blinked. What? His dad chuckled. Son, I was worried you were sick or in some kind of trouble. Relief crashed over Ethan. You're okay with it? His father placed a hand on his shoulder. Of course I am. Ethan felt tears welling in his eyes. His dad continued. You're my son. That doesn't change. For the first time in years, Ethan felt a weight lifting from his chest. A huge weight. One he'd carried far too long. The next conversation happened with his mother. Then Chloe, to Ethan's surprise, both reacted with the same love and support. His sister even laughed. I knew before you did. That became a running joke in the family. For weeks afterward, Ethan felt lighter, happier, more himself. Yet one challenge remained. The town. Willow Creek wasn't a bad place. But small towns had long memories and strong opinions. Ethan worried about what people might say, what they might think. For a while, he considered keeping things private. But the more he thought about it, the more he realized something. He'd spent years hiding. He didn't want to keep doing that. The opportunity arrived during the annual community festival. The entire town attended. There were food stalls, live music, games, and market vendors lining the main street. Ethan was helping run a fundraising barbecue with several other volunteers. As the afternoon wore on, he found himself chatting with familiar faces: farmers, teachers, neighbors, people he'd known forever. And something unexpected happened. Nothing. Nobody treated him differently. Nobody seemed concerned. Most people simply carried on with their day. The world didn't end. The town didn't collapse. Life continued. Over the following months, Ethan became increasingly comfortable being himself. There were still occasional awkward moments. Not everyone understood. Not everyone agreed. But far more people accepted him than he'd ever imagined. The fear he'd carried for years slowly lost its power. One spring afternoon, Ethan stood on a hill overlooking Willow Creek. The town spread below him. The church, the football field, the main street, the farms stretching toward the horizon. For so long, he'd felt like he didn't belong there, like he had to choose between being himself and being part of the community he loved. Now he understood something important. He didn't have to choose. He could be both, a proud country kid and a proud gay young man. The two things weren't opposites. They were simply parts of who he was. As the wind rolled across the hills, Ethan smiled. The future still held challenges. Life always would. But for the first time, he wasn't facing it behind a mask. He was facing it as himself. And that made all the difference. Because sometimes the bravest thing a person can do isn't changing who they are. It's allowing the world to see who they've been all along. And in that small country town, surrounded by familiar faces and open paddocks, Ethan finally found something he'd been searching for years. He found his place.